Across Africa, land is more than soil. It's identity, security, and survival. But today, over 45% of the continent's land is degraded. On World Day to Combat Desertification and Drought, we ask, can we restore the land? And if we do, what doors might we open?
Desertification affects food security and livelihoods, particularly here in the Sahel. In the Sahel, desertification is not just an environmental issue, it is a silent emergency. It threatens food security as it roots, and when the land dries up, so does harvest, income, and hope. I have seen rural families who are already living on the edge, pushed deeper into poverty. And more in the Gambia, we have seen farmers abandon their rice fields, once fertile land. Crops wither because of the erratic rainfall patterns, and the young people who are unable to feed their families migrate. Desertification is not just degrading our soils, it is degrading our dignity, and that must change. Traditional land management practices have not been completely wiped off. In our engagement at Green-Up Gambia, our sole aim is actually to connect with local people, learn from them through citizens' assemblies, through district assemblies, and through village assemblies, having that intergenerational dialogue and knowledge exchange. Our ancestors were once environmentalists. Before they existed, before the term even had existed, our ancestors were conservationists. We practiced things like zypits, crop rotation, intercropping, shifting cultivation. All of these things were designed to work with the land and not against it. So we combine these traditional ways with modern scientific tools like biochar application, digital mapping, and in fact supporting drought-resilient trees. So this fusion of indigenous knowledge and modern science is powering our community restoration efforts, especially under initiatives like the Great Green Wall and of course, building partnerships for sustainable development.
Desertification affects food security, livelihoods, and social stability. But in the face of crisis, communities are innovating.
So it is very important to always incorporate traditional knowledge into our models that we are working on. So this way it helps to keep a balance and also, brings in a higher yield for the farmers and help them, to actually work with the soil in the way that, it gives them a maximum benefit per hectare rather than, the maximum value per hectare.
Across Africa, grassroots innovation is rewriting the land's future, one seedling at a time.
In the 1990s, most African countries developed environmental laws, framework environmental laws, amended their constitutions to incorporate environmental rights, the right to clean and a healthy environment. The issue here is that environmental right to clean and healthy environment is part of the environmental justice, public participation, the right to access justice in courts of law, and also the right to access information. That revolution in Africa became the foundation of what we now know as environmental justice across the continent. It has been evolving. The courts are now fully embedded. The students in universities are now studying environmental law. From then onwards, now we see the private sector, the population exercising their rights to a clean environment, protesting against projects which are not environmentally sound, and also helping society, governments to be accountable to be accountable for the environmental actions which they take. We developed a law making sure that we maintain the forest stock in a country so that if you degazette a forest, you have to create another forest with the same ecological functions. So that piece was embedded in a law of a certain country. And when the country's political leadership wanted to degazette that forest, they found they couldn't degazette that forest. And up to now, that forest is still there. To me, that was one of the biggest breakthroughs in laws, in policies, in which you entrench protection of ecological functions. Whether you got caught or not, it will not work because you must bring back the same ecological functions, offset that system. And that system has spread all over to so many other African countries to the extent that we see forest covers now increasing throughout the continent and the rest and so on. But the other aspect of breakthrough is on oceans. Oceans in Africa were not talked about for so many years simply because people live on land. Not very many people live on the ocean. We have developed an ocean governance strategy in Africa which brings together the whole continent, the nations, the instruments, the civil society, the private sector, the ports authorities, the shipping lines and the rest and so on, so that we have a forum in which we discuss how to protect those oceans, bringing together all the legal instruments, the conventions on oceans and so on. And it will be, to me, I think it's one of the biggest breakthrough of bringing the ocean matters on the table of discussions, not to leave them outside there. Oceans were being called the forgotten cousin, but now they are going to become the real twin in Africa between biodiversity, climate change, land, forests, and oceans. They are all going to be sisters and brothers so that we can all utilize the resources collectively together.
But gaps remain. Poor coordination, weak enforcement, and lack of inclusion, especially of rural voices, still hinder progress.
Climate change is political, it's food, it's land, it's education, it's everything. Simply because of the nature of Africa, which is a heavily agricultural continent, relying mostly on subsistence agriculture. So one season alone of no rain or one season of heavy rain is enough to remove food from the table. There is not enough food security in Africa. Even from our communities, there is no storage, there is no preservation of food, and therefore any small item breaks the food chain, the food availability, the land availability. The increase in desertification is reducing the availability of land. The floods are carrying away the soils. Africa loses billions of dollars out of soil loss into the oceans simply because of climate change.
Young people who are unable to feed their families migrate. Desertification is not just degrading our soils, it is degrading our dignity, and that must change. Local governments and multilateral corporations can support grassroots organizations in combating desertification. We need more than just applause. We need partnership, we need local action that is backed by global ambition. That means we want flexible long-term financing, we want a space at the policy-making table for youth and community voices, and of course we want to trust in local-led solutions. The UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration and the African Union's Agenda 2063 offer a framework, but their success depends on empowering those doing the actual work on the ground.
Combating desertification can also reduce migration and conflicts, but it must start from the ground up with the people. how do we build systems that include everyone? Women, youth, traditional leaders.
For the youth, start now, at whatever age, to take action, whether to plant a tree, whether to go into policy-elect me, whether to be an advocate, an activist, or whichever way it benefits. There is a story that planting a tree is not for your benefit, but it's for the benefit of future generations. So therefore, start now to embrace environment into your lifestyle.
So the message I want to share with the rest of the world, I want to say this, that the land is more than soil. It is the soul of humanity. When we restore land, we restore life, justice, and peace. Let's not inherit a dying planet. Let's co-create a living legacy. As we say in Africa, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, let's go together. Now is the time to go far together. Restore the planet.
This World Day to combat desertification and drought. Let us unite as Africans, as humans, and restore the land. The time to act is now.